Alright, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to remove your subject from a background, ideally a solid color background like this green screen, and then paste them onto different channels to see what kind of effect we get. Probably the best tool for this job would be the Quick Selection tool, which is over here. And you'll notice it starts out with a plus sign. That means I'm going to add the things I click on to my selection. So you'll definitely want to make sure that's selected right here. You can make your brush however big makes sense for your picture, and all you do is click and drag along your subject. And Photoshop interprets where you click and makes a selection. It kind of reads your mind. And it does a pretty good job. But you do have to go in and clean it up a little bit. It's not going to be perfect. For example, if I zoom in here, it missed this part underneath her arm. So what I'm going to do is shrink my brush down with my brackets. And if I hold down Alt, my plus sign brush becomes a minus. So it's going to take this part out of the selection. So as I click now, instead of adding to the selection, it actually makes the selection smaller. Now you're going to want to zoom in all around your subject and make sure that the right parts are added and the right parts are subtracted. And be very sure, because we're going to use this selection a lot of times. I already took the time to do this, so I'm not going to make you watch me make my selection. I'm actually going to load my selection. Okay, so there she is. She's blinking. And what we're going to do is copy, Control C, and we're going to paste her in a new document. So go to File, New. And instead of pasting her on the layers like we're used to, we're going to go over here to our Channels tab. We have RGB, red, green, and blue. Click on your red channel, so it's the only one that's showing, and you're going to paste, Control V. When I paste her on there, you'll notice she turned into a black and white image because she's now a mask, so there's really only black and white. And then you'll also notice on the RGB channel, which is all the channels put together, she's not black, white, she's not in color, she's actually cyan. That's because cyan is the opposite of red. So all the areas that are black here are getting masked from showing the red tones, and they're showing the opposite of cyan, and everything that is white is left alone. So if I go back to my RGB layer, make sure it is selected, and go to my layers, this is how she actually looks. She's cyan. So what we're going to do is make a new document and paste her into that. So we're going to make a new document. I'm going to go back to this one, and I'm going to use my Move tool to drag her up and drop her in here. And if I need more space, I can make this document bigger, but for now, let's just get her in here. Okay, so now we're going to go back. The selection is still highlighted here, so again, I'm going to copy, Control C. I'm going to make another new document. I'm going to go to my channels again, and this time instead of pasting her on the red channel, I'm going to paste her on the green. The opposite of green is magenta, so you'll notice that on the RGB, all the green tones are masked and all we're seeing is the magenta. So now we're going to drag this version of her, if I go back to my layers, in with the cyan one. So I'm going to drag it up and drop it in here. Close this one, and one more time I'm going to copy, make a new document, and this time paste her onto the blue channel, and the opposite of blue is yellow. So the blue areas are masked and we're only seeing her in yellow. So I'm going to drag and drop this yellow version into my document that has all of them. And now instead of being on the channels, they're on their own separate layers so I can move them around. Now right now they're really just covering each other up and it's not very interesting. I could move them around and kind of stagger them so you can see all of them, but what's going to be even better than that is going to be to change the blending modes so that they actually blend together. One that works really well is linear burn. And right now what we're seeing is that the yellow layer is set to linear burn and it's mixing with magenta, and what we're seeing is red. If I make the magenta layer set to linear burn, it's going to mix with the cyan layer and it's making blue. And that way, if I stagger these around, I'm actually getting a variety of colors. I'm getting magenta, blue, green, red, yellow, and cyan. And I'm also getting black, and the black is showing up anywhere that all three of the first colors are mixing. If I mix yellow, magenta, and cyan together, if I were to stack her up completely all lined up, then she would just be showing as a black and white image. So you can feel free to move these around. You could try some different blending modes. You could try levels on top to adjust the intensity of those colors. And also, if we need a little more room, we could go to Image, Canvas Size, and make our canvas a little bit bigger to make some room to move her around a little bit more. So right now my canvas is about 6 by 12, and so if I wanted to make it bigger, I could just go relative and put in, maybe I want it 2 inches wider, and say I want this to be white, and say OK. So now I have some more room to move her around a little bit. So play around with the different blending modes and the position of the layers and see what kind of creative stuff you can come up with.